Welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Steven. Today's episode is about early Leblanc clarinets, including the Classic and Symphony line of clarinets. At the end, don't forget to give a thumbs up, subscribe, and like and share afterwards. So let's start learning about the early Leblanc clarinets. I brought out a set of Leblanc LLs that I have. I've had these for quite a while. Very nice B flat, a very nice A. They have a lot of things in common with the earlier clarinets. And I'll pull one out. What you notice is it really has sturdy keyworks. That's one thing about Leblanc is they always had sturdy keywork. They always had these keyworks that went over the other ones in straight inline trill keys, as you see here. And the keywork is always nice and sturdy compared to both Selmer Paris and also Buffet. Selmer Paris Buffet had really thin, delicate keywork at times. They've evolved over time. But Leblancs have always been sturdy and always have been a favorite for players and technicians. This is one of my favorite clarinets to play, the LLs. I believe I own all the Symphonie Model, Symphonie, Symphonie II, Classic, Classic II, and Symphonie III. We'll be reviewing those shortly with pictures and everything. And also, we'll be reviewing the Stubbins Loomis patent quickly, the 176, 476, 576, and C8 brand of Leblanc clarinets. If we go to my website, clarinetperfection.com, and go to serial numbers, Leblanc Noble Normandy and Leblanc Professional, we can go to the pre-classic Stubbins model 176, and right after that would be the Symphony Classic model. But we'll be reviewing this information real quickly, the Stubbins information and patent information. If we just go to the Loomis patent here, we can see some information for this in regards to the early Leblanc clarinets. You can go to my website, see more information about it. You can see how they created all these register keys and things to improve the throat keys on the clarinet. Neat patent information. Patent office document here. If you want to read that, you can go there. I don't plan on reading it at all. It is quite long and intensive. But it's some pretty neat history to read about back then. The 1933 patent information is in here. Once again, it goes over the thumb register key here that you see a lot. This is really based upon, alto and bass clarinet type information put on the soprano clarinet. So a pretty interesting design that they moved over. This is 9 pages long, but you can go through the details here. And the details are related to, as you can see here, Leblanc clarinets. One of the real nice things about Leblanc clarinets is on the lower joint, E-flat key here is actually separate post, is not part in line with the other keys here. And that gives it a nice, consistent feel and much more easy to maintain as a technician. And here we can go on. You can read the patent here that's online. This document is about 9 pages long, I believe. Yep. Really interesting information. September 12th, 1933. The 1948 model, these more stupid patents here. This may be the same one. Here's a 1940 patent. I'll let everyone here go there in detail. Look at all this key work. If you look at the register key, is that one where it's cut off and flat? Makes it easier to align. I can't remember off the top of my head. You can go here and read about it. Second patent there. 1950 patent. Reviewing how it goes in the bore and how much it goes into the bore. Look at that. I've never had all the variations of this, only I think one of them at one time. I'm sure there's enough of them on eBay cruising around if you want to pick one up here and there. But here's some pictures of them. These pictures have been on my website for ages. I have no idea where I got them from. I've had a lot of people email me pictures over time, and I pick stuff off of eBay from time to time. But here's a close-up of the actual mechanism. Look at all the adjusting screws on it. That's a lot to maintain there. All to improve the tonal quality, of course. If you're the only one with this, your tonal quality is going to be different than everyone else in the band or orchestra. There's a picture from above. Pretty neat though when you play with these things. Like all these interlinking joints just have to work perfectly, have to be adjusted perfectly, which is why they have those adjusting screws on them. Oh yeah, and this one had all the bell keys on one side, or three of them on one side. Pretty neat feature. Doesn't really do anything, just all on one side. Pictures available there. I identified this one as pre-classic before it was actually given a specific identification on it. Oops. Notice it already had a thumb rest and individual key post down here. All these are on my website, as I mentioned. You can peruse it at any time. You can see the linkage going here. Pretty neat ingenuity back then. Then moving on, we have the Model 176, which is approximately 1954 vintage. We'll be looking at some more pictures in a minute. Model 476 identified the 476 on top. 576 after that. Leblanc C8, which is approximately early 50s. And then we get the model evolution of the Symphony and the classic model. So let's now jump to pictures that we have. Now I have a boatload of pictures, so we can go as quickly as we can. Here's some pictures of 176, as we can see here. It's identified by the 176 stamp on the top of the upper joint above the emblem. You notice the keywork is really all the same as all the other keywork. You see variations though, like the trill key guide. This is, flat metal versus a slotted barrel you get later on. But they're all really sturdy instruments. All the early Leblanc clarinets also they're all really nice. There's no problems with any of them. Kind of fuzzy picture. But they all had smaller bores, so they're very easy to play. If I would rank the Leblancs nowadays, I'd probably say they're more geared towards students. I'd say they're so easy to play consistently. They're probably better for students. Here is a 576. Look at the old style reed holder. I remember those. They kind of all look the same, don't they? 576 right there. Needs some polishing, but looks pretty nice. And here's the C8, had the C and the 8 on the top. Actually, it could be also a C and a B. I never really figured that out. The could have been related to Betania importer. If you have any information about that, put in the questions and comments below. That would definitely help. Here now we get to an early A, pictures that were sent to me a long time ago. You notice the emblem isn't the same emblem we are used to today. This is very generic, simple stamp. L configuration. And we got the flat steel of the trill key guide, but it's rounded on the edges. Oops. Of course, this one's in a hand foam, as you can see. Neat pictures of old clarinets. Here's some pictures of a Stubbins that I have. Once again, you can see the 3 bell keys on one side. Enhanced foam. Of course, the mechanism here. If yours isn't properly set up, you need to have the cork compartment places so it can be nice and quiet. These can get to be noisy if they don't have proper cork or artificial cork in the places here to really quiet it down. But all Leblancs are made very sturdy. The keywork is always sturdy. I've never come across a bad Leblanc clarinet. Now here we get to the line of the Symphony and Classic line. The Symphonie Model was the first version. Why they went from Symphony to Classic back to Symphony, I don't know. But when you file the serial number list, that's what you get. So here's the Symphonie Model, as is engraved up there. This one had, of course, the keywork there we're just talking about. Here's another Symphony Model, hopefully a little bit better pictures. It's a Symphony Model up there. Really pretty wood on the barrel there. Now here's pictures from a long time ago. This one I actually have pictures as we go through. You can see what it goes through to get refurbished. See here with no keywork. This is a regular Symphony Model. All the keywork's off of it. You can see the tone holes and everything. Here's the keywork. The rods are put on a board so you can keep track of them. Registry vent, thumb vent is pulled out. On most of these, I believe the thumb vent just is basically press fit into there. It is curved on the bottom, so you have to make sure when you insert it, you rotate it properly. Registry vent here is also just inserted in. Keywork, barrel after an oil soaking. There's multiple ways of oiling the clarinet. You can use submersion or immersion, as it's called, where you insert it really into a tub, and you can either pressurize it or not pressurize it. I tend to just wipe it with oil inside and out, and over time it gets absorbed, especially from the inside of the bore. And then over time you'll just stop absorbing oil. It may take really 2 to 3 weeks sometimes if it's really bad, but that's the way I used to do it most of the time. I didn't like submersion it, because when you put it under oil, the trouble is it may get underneath the posts. And if it gets underneath the posts, it'll start turning green underneath there and start spewing out over time. And I learned if I immerse it, I really have to drip dry it after that to make sure it doesn't have too much oil in the body. You have to let it leach out after time. And then I learned to put in a little bit of a heat container to help it leach out quicker. And I just found it just oiling the inside and outside over time lets it get in there. Now, what I do also, if you notice, is I do put the gold paint, gold wax in the emblem before I do any oil because it will stick in there and it won't, if I oil it beforehand, this won't stay in there very well. More pictures here. Just usually let it sit there. Here's the keywork, I guess, getting polished. Yeah, you can see the register vent is all clean now. Oh, that's all with new pads being installed and everything. Looks like this was getting leather pads, white leather pads. See the post here, all nice and shiny again. There's no cork on the tenon, as you can see in this picture. Oh, there it is. All cleaned up. What I usually do is you cut this out a little bit more so it's a little bit deeper before you inlay the, basically it's a French polish wax thing that they have. I forgot exactly what it's called. Nice and pretty now, isn't it? You can see these are reinserted. All the emblems are redone. Oiling started. This is Magna Helix. Oh, let me rotate it here. Oh, I can't. Oh, there it is. So what you're doing is I'm putting little rubber stoppers in the tone holes and then checking to make sure that it holds pressure. I've learned over time, older clarinets, they may actually, even if when you do this, allow leakage, and that usually occurs around the tone hole. So what I usually do in older clarinets before 1980 now, basically, is I use some French shellac in basically a Q-tip, and I put a little bit, rub it on the inside of the tone holes to make sure there's not any air leaking through the wood in the tone holes. Just a little bit extra just to make sure. I found that problem when I had a shop sent me an early Selmer clarinet, I think it was, and even though the pads were on right, depending upon how you play it, if you push your fingers down really hard, it played really well, but if you're light on your fingers like me, it just didn't, the tone was gone because there was some pressure leaking somewhere. And I found out from that the tone holes can get permeable and air can leak through the tone holes. So now I just use shellac on the inside all the tone holes all the time, especially on older models, so I don't have to worry about it. You can see the rubber stoppers there. Now I'm going to start putting on key work and do a little bit at a time, make sure everything is pressurized properly. Oh, this is one way I used to polish my key work, is in a tumbler, vibrating tumbler. You see how clarinet is built up until it's done. Look at that. Pretty clarinet. The Symphony Classic line, like I said, is really easy to play. I really like it. If you are able to get one, the Symphony III is probably the best of them, simply because it has a larger bore. And that just made it a little bit easier on your dynamics. The Symphony Classic line, I don't know how to put it, but it's very easy to play pianissimo. But if you want to, and it's easy to play, say, forte. If you want to play double forte, the Symphony III is easier because of larger bore. But I really kind of point people towards using LLs as a minimum to get if they really want a very flexible instrument. That's all we have for the picture there. Here's a Symphony II. Next in line, the Evolution. See a little 2 right there. Not the greatest of pictures. These were probably sent to me. That's not my workbench or anything. Next, we get to the Classic line. You can see here, this one's being, cork is being cut for the upper joint tenon. Before picks. Oh, there's a crack in there, missing piece. I forgot what I did to replace that. Icky. Look at that. Someone probably kind of sat on it. That's how that usually happens. Leblanc Classic. Oops. Emblems redone. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, look at this. I remember putting this up on the lathe to take a good look at it. You can see someone actually sat on this. They cracked it and everything like that. And a chunk was lost on the inside. I think I kind of cut this down a bit. Probably put a carbon band on it and filled it back in to strengthen the area and use some composites on the inside too. It's a long time ago, 2010. Yeah, look at that. I put some composites in here. Then I filed it all down and made it fit better and everything. Polish it up and made it look as new. Ooh, look at that. Big crack right to the tonal. Look at that one. I'm not sure that was the same clarinet, but if it was, I fixed it all back up. 2025. I did this 4 years from now on the date. More Magnelic checks. What a lot of work sometimes. And these clarinets really, it's actually cheaper just to buy a new one off of eBay probably nowadays. Here's another classic. Real pretty instruments here. Well, this is a Symphony III on it, this one. I got my pictures mixed up. I got so many pictures. Sometimes they get all mixed up. Anyways, if this is the Symphony III is the last of the line. I believe I've had all of them. I really like the Symphony IIIs the best. They had a larger bore, a little bit more dynamic and more flexible in the dynamics. Nothing wrong with any of them, though. Here's the Classic II. I think this one was mine. They're all a joy to play once it's set up properly. And here, I believe, is a Symphony III, the last of the lineage. As it gets refurbished. Well, there's one way to polish. You either use a bench mortar or I just use my lathe also. Put a polishing thing on it. That's the main polishing one, just to cut the grime off. And I would actually put the clarinet on the lathe between the two joint things so that just easier to clean the when you use some cloth strips to clean the post off a lot better. Making them all nice and clean, as you can see. I still use that tumbler at the time. The vibrator I had, the tumbler vibrator I had, I used small grit, and small grit would actually get into the ends of the keys, and I have to clean them all out. I went to a larger grit after that. Sometimes you also just quicker just to polish it with the machine. This one needed a tenon ring on the top of it, so you take a regular tenon ring, nickel one. Have to cut it down a bit, make sure this fits over it. Then you actually cut this down so it's even. You can see it's uneven here. And then pop the cork on it. That one was nice and thin. That was easy to do. Strengthening up the joint a bit. 2012, that was 9 years ago. Wow. Bad pictures. There's some nice clear pictures. Really nice clarinets, these Leblancs. Nice sturdy key work. Nice thick key work. Easy to get your fingers on it. Easy to close them down. Consistent key work, consistent feel throughout the entire instrument. They're really nice. Well, I have more and more pictures of these Symphony Classic clarinets. They kind of all look the same, of course. Of course, the Model Evolution was the Symphony Model. the Symphony, the Symphony II, Classic, Classic II, and Symphony III. And the largest variation of them was location of some tone holes, some diameter size difference in tone holes and the bore size. The Symphony 3 was the best of that entire lineage there, of course. I just found it more easy to get better dynamics. But if you were to ask me which one I prefer the most, of course, Symphony 3. But if you're looking for a lifelong clarinet, I steer people towards the Leblanc LL if you don't mind spending a little bit more money. It's not much more than the Symphony Classic models. Now, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with them. They're great. They're easy to play top to bottom. I recall a teacher I used to communicate with always got his students on the classic or symphony models. He loved his too, but he finally took my advice and got an LL, and he realized why it was so much better. The board being better just was it was as easy to play as the classic and symphony. You just get more dynamics. The dynamics are easier to get, especially the more forte you get. Now, if you really have some good money, I recommend the modern concerto models. Those are head over heels better than the LL, which I consider much better than the symphony and classic line. They're lovely to play. Their tone is one of those ones to die for. But of course, those are a lot more money. And we're talking about the symphony and classic models here too. Well, that's all I really had for us today about the classic and symphony models. If you like to listen to my ramblings, don't forget to question and comment down below. Don't forget to like, thumbs up, subscribe, and share, because you gotta love the knowledge, gotta love life, and you gotta love clarinets, especially Leblancs. All lovely clarinets. Too bad they're gone now. See ya next time.